Was geht ab, Freunde? Willkommen zu einem neuen Video hier auf meinem YouTube-Kanal. Heute mit einer Reaction auf eine andere One Piece-Theorie. Es geht darüber, was das One Piece ist, was Ruffys wahrer Traum ist. Eine richtig geile Theorie geworden. Das Ganze habe ich wie immer live im Stream gemacht. Also wenn ihr beim nächsten Mal dabei sein wollt, dann checkt unbedingt den Link in meiner Bio ab. Ich bin jeden Mittwoch und Freitag um 21 Uhr live auf Twitch mit Chapter-Reviews, Reactions, Tierlists, also alles Mögliche. Und keine Sorge, auf diesem Kanal werden nicht nur Stream-Highlights kommen, ich plane auch schon die nächsten beiden richtig großen YouTube-Videos und Theorien. Deshalb bleibt unbedingt gespannt. Lasst ein Like und ein Abo auf dem Kanal da. Ich habe euch das Originalvideo auch in der Bio nochmal verlinkt. Und jetzt viel Spaß mit dem Video.
Like you, probably watching this video, I love One Piece a lot. There was a time when I binged my fair share of theory videos back in the day, and even now I still watch a few that intrigue me. But one thing I've always noticed about the One Piece theory community is how often they focus on what the One Piece can do, like destroying the Red Line and uniting all the seas, but rarely do they ever discuss what the One Piece actually is. Like, what is the treasure? Which is crazy when you consider how many theory videos are now out there on YouTube. Yet, if you search, what is the One Piece, not many actually give you a straight answer.
Das stimmt, aber er hat recht. Es gibt so viele One Piece-Theorien, aber es gibt echt sehr wenige, was das One Piece eigentlich ist. Hat er einen guten Punkt, ne?
I get it though. YouTube theorists risk their credibility if they go all in on a bold claim and get it wrong. The internet never forgets, and I can only imagine how brutal their comment sections could become.
They're not human, they're brutal!
But good thing is, I don't have any credibility, and I'm not trying to be a theory channel, so I don't care if I get it wrong.
Hey, that's
also,
good, actually.
I've always wanted to make a theory video, and I think it's fun that we archive what we thought the One Piece was before we actually find out. So, this is my chance. The theory that if we were just hanging out together as a couple of goofballs is what I'd throw my hat on to be the One Piece. So with all that said, let's get straight into the video.
Spoiler for the
Firstly,
entire
I think
series.
it's important that we quickly confirm a few things so that we can understand where and what the One Piece is. Number one, the One Piece has to be on Laugh Tale. Right from the start, Roger says, I left all of it in that place, which almost certainly means Laugh Tale. That said, you could argue that the newer, more accurate translations make it sound like Roger meant you need to travel the whole world to find it, which is a bit more abstract. However, Roger told Whitebeard about the Will of D and what the One Piece is, and since Laugh Tale marks the end of his journey, I think that's solid proof it's on that island. We even see Roger looking at the One Piece and then naming the island Laugh Tale, so for it not to be there and for it to be in a different location would feel anticlimactic and not.
Ich glaube, darüber brauchen wir auch gar nicht reden. Es ist eigentlich klar, dass das One Piece auf Laugh Tale ist. Aber
really Oda's style. The vast majority of fans believe that One Piece is on Laugh Tale, and I'm with them on that. Number two, the One Piece will reveal all the secrets of the world's history. Whitebeard famously shouted, as soon as someone finds that great treasure, the entire world will be turned upside down. That could mean two things. Either the truth about the Void Century is so shocking it'll shake the foundations of the world, or the One Piece itself is some kind of object powerful enough to literally turn the world upside down. In Odin's journal, he mentioned they discovered everything. The Void Century, the meaning of the D, the ancient weapons, and that Wano was once open to the world. He also noted that when faced with...
Und das ist immer der Punkt, wo ich sage, das macht es schwer zu sagen, was das One Piece ist. Weil sie haben gelacht, aber sie haben gleichzeitig die Wahrheit über die Welt erfahren, über den Willen des Dies, über die antiken Waffen, über das verlorene Jahrhundert. So, da gibt es ja eigentlich nicht viel zu lachen, außer das One Piece ist ein Kinderbuch. So, es ist eine Zeichnung von Joyboy und deswegen mussten sie lachen, weil die Zeichnung so hässlich war. Das würde auch passen, weil Ruffy hat früher auch gerne gezeichnet und diese Zeichnungen waren auch immer hässlich. Und was auch dafür spricht, dass das One Piece ein Buch sein könnte oder ein Bilderbuch. Joyboy hat ja eine antike Sprache gesprochen, ne? Also, auf den Poneglyphen ist eine Sprache, die die heutige Zivilisation nicht versteht. Bedeutet, damit Joyboy ausdrücken kann, was er meint und die anderen es verstehen, muss es ja irgendwie ein Bild sein. Weil sonst würde Roger ja nicht verstehen, was da drauf gezeichnet ist, denn Roger kann die Poneglyphe nicht lesen. Aber ja.
The vast treasure, which was very real, Roger and his crew just laughed. That tells us whatever the One Piece is, it has to be either something absurd, crazy, spectacular, silly, funny, or all of those things combined. But at the same time, it has to reveal the true history of the world.
Ja, das ist
Number
dieser
3,
Widerspruch
the One Piece has
irgendwie.
to be related to Luffy and Roger's dream.
Ja, 100%.
This shared dream is the reason Shanks gave Luffy the Straw Hat in the first place. It's why he's bet everything on Luffy becoming the Pirate King. The fact that Oda still hasn't revealed the exact words of that dream heavily implies to me that if he did, it would be too much of a direct clue on what exactly the One Piece is. So to conclude, the One Piece is on Laugh Tale. It must reveal the true history of the world, the Void Century, the ancient weapons, and the Will of D. It's something that caused Roger and his entire crew to laugh at when they saw it. And finally, it has to be connected in some way.
Okay, erst so eine Art Zusammenfassung, ne? Sachen, die wir schon wissen.
Now, I'm not going to be like those other theory channels and try to keep you with endless suspense. No, I'm just going to tell you now. I think the One Piece is a UFO, specifically a flying saucer.
Warte,
yes,
was?
I know, ladies and gentlemen, I told you this.
Denkt, das One Piece ist ein UFO? Okay, noch nie gehört. Ich habe schon einige Theorien in meinem Leben gesehen, aber ein UFO habe ich noch nie gehört. Ich bin gespannt. Let him cook. Let him cook, Leute. Ich lasse ihn.
Was a dumb theory.
Das
But
ist verrückt.
what if it's so dumb that there's actually some method to the madness?
Okay.
Let me explain. UFOs aren't a modern concept in Japan. Back in 1803, there was a strange and fascinating case known as the Utsudo Bune, which literally means hollow ship. Link in the description below. The story goes that fishermen off the coast of Hitachi province discovered a bizarre saucer-shaped craft drifting in the sea. The vessel was made of metal and glass, covered in unknown symbols. Symbols no one could understand. Inside it, a mysterious woman with red or white hair, depending on the version, wearing strange clothes and clutching a sealed box that she refused to let anyone touch. She spoke an unknown language and no one could figure out where she came from. Because of Japan's strict isolation
Passt schon mal ein bisschen zum verlorenen Jahrhundert, ne?
policy at the time, the locals, fearing something dangerous or foreign, towed the craft back out to sea. And just like that, this strange encounter was lost to history. Or was it? Maybe Oda's turning that old myth into a pirate legend. When you look at the actual images drawn from this story back in the 19th century, there are a few details that really stand out. One illustration from 1845 shows a crest on the ship that has a small resemblance to the Kozuki clan's crest. Another
Ja, fand ich jetzt nicht unbedingt, dass sich das so ähnlich gesehen hat, oder?
There are a
Weiß ich
few
nicht.
details that really stand out. One illustration from 1845 shows a crest on the ship that has a small resemblance to the Kozuki clan's crest. Another from 1825 shows a saucer-shaped design that looks eerily similar to a straw hat. So yeah, I think the One Piece is some type of flying saucer, and I'm even going to go one step further.
Aber komm, wenn es ein UFO ist ja auch irgendwie nur ein umgedrehter Strohhut. Das würde schon irgendwo passen. Checkt ihr, was ich meine? So, wenn er in diese Richtung gehen will.
Because I think it has a red Rio poneglyph embedded into it, wrapped around the ship like a ring that just so happens to resemble a certain iconic hat. So let's talk about that for a second, the straw hat. It's one of the most important and central symbols in One Piece, yet no one ever asks the obvious question. Why a straw hat? Why not a pirate hat?
Warum ein Strohhut? Also meine Interpretation des Strohhut ist, Ruffy ist der Sonnengott, derjenige, der am nächsten an der Sonne ist, ne, weil er wird die Welt in eine neue Morgendämmerung führen. Und was brauchst du, wenn du der Sonne nah bist? Ein Strohhut. Das war halt so mein Gedanke immer, ne, am Strohhut.
Baseball cap or a bandana. Why has this one specific item been passed down from Joy Boy
Aber er kann noch
to Roger
viel
to Shanks
tiefer sein, der Strohhut,
to
ne?
Luffy? Well, I think
Ist er
the straw
wahrscheinlich
hat
auch.
is more than just a symbol of inheritance. I think it's actually meant to resemble the One Piece itself. So here's my scrambled short theory. The D-Clan were a spacefaring people, explorers from the moon or beyond, and they arrived or crash landed on the One Piece world in a flying saucer. A piece of ancient advanced technology that looks so strange and otherworldly to the people.
Eine Sache, er hat einen guten Punkt. Das antike Königreich kam ja wahrscheinlich vom Mond, ne? Und war technisch sehr fortgeschritten. Das wissen wir durch Enels Cover-Story. Also, jetzt langsam freue ich mich mit diesem Gedanken UFO an.
Of the past, They made straw hats to imitate the vessel as a peace offering to honor these space voyagers as they shared their technology. The hat became a symbol of unity, freedom, and friendship. And there's precedence for this too. Remember when Emu stared at that massive frozen straw hat in the vault, like it was some kind of long-lost artifact? That moment confirmed two things. There's more than one of these hats in the world, and they clearly hold some deep hidden meaning. Think about the recent introduction of all the sci-fi elements into the series.
No.
Vegapunk's Egghead arc went full science fiction. We've seen an ancient robot head, mechs, and weapons far ahead of their time. What if the D-Clan's tech was so advanced it looked like magic? The same way Vegapunk's inventions do to most of the world. So it's not too far-fetched for the One Piece to be some type of future tech. Also, there's something I've always struggled with. In Odin's journal, he wrote that they discovered everything.
Ja.
The Void Century, the meaning of D,
Auch so ein
the ancient
Punkt,
weapons, and the
wo ich mir
truth about
denke,
Wano's past. Combine that with Robin's belief that the Rio Poneglyph holds the entire true history of the world, that's a lot of information to be carved into a single stone. Which makes me think the Rio Poneglyph can't just be a block. It has to be bigger, wider, maybe even a structure. And for me,
Es ist ein cooler Gedanke, dass auf dem One Piece die Story reingraviert worden ist. Und da muss das One Piece ziemlich groß sein. Ey, warte, der hat schwach angefangen, er wird stärker. Er wird stärker.
think it's a red ring of stone wrapped around the flying saucer, one that just so happens to resemble Luffy's straw hat, a story etched into the ship itself, containing the most incredible tale ever told. But let's just put a plug in that for a moment and discuss Luffy's dream. So if you're still with me up until this point, thanks a lot, I appreciate it, but this is where I might lose a few of you and that's totally fine. I'll hold my hands up right now and admit I'm most definitely wrong, but here's my theory. I think Luffy's dream, the one he told Ace, Sabo and later his crew, is that he wants to travel to space. Like straight up, I want to be a space explorer. And I get it. You can attach all kinds.
Ich finde das jetzt nicht so dumm, ehrlich gesagt, weil er hatte den Traum bereits als ein kleines Kind und welches kleine Kind hatte nicht mal den Traum, in den Weltraum zu gehen? Vor allem, wenn man überlegt, Ruffy ist der Sonnengott, der aber immer mit dem Mond präsentiert wird, ne? Also, guck mal, wenn Ruffy in Gear 5 sich, verwandelt, dann ist er ja vor dem Mond und nicht vor der Sonne, so. Und generell, wir haben ja das Weltraumthema durch Ene mit dem Mond, wir haben den Mond, der immer thematisiert wird und wir haben gesehen, dass es Space Pirates gibt. Also, wir haben auf Enes Coverstory gesehen, es gibt Space Pirates. Deswegen, ich finde den Traum jetzt nicht so super weit hergeholt.
He said to his crew. Maybe he said, I want to throw the world's biggest party, or I
Das
want to
glaube
make
ich.
sure that no one in the world ever goes hungry again. And
Das glaube ich
honestly,
auch
those are
vielleicht.
both valid ideas. This scene,
Ey, witzig, das waren meine beiden Ideen zu Ruffys wahren Traum. Entweder eine große Party mit der ganzen Welt oder eine Welt zu schaffen, in der niemand mehr hungern muss. Das waren meine Ideen, die wahrscheinlich auch schon viele davor hatten, aber das war für mich immer am logischsten, ne?
leaves a lot of room for interpretation. But here's where I want to dig a little deeper. Not into the words, but into how everyone reacts.
Ja,
There's something in
guter
their
Punkt.
shock. It's not admiration, but wide-eyed disbelief. The kind of reaction you get when someone says something so outrageous, so wild, so out there, pun intended, that you just have to laugh, but you're
Ja.
also kind of moved at the same time. And there are these little visual hints too.
Auch so ein Ding, dass Oda uns die Reaktion von jedem einzelnen Stroh zeigt auch, dass die Reaktion von jedem einzelnen Stroh wichtig ist und einen Hinweis darauf liefert. Und jo, Figerland, was geht?
Right before Luffy reveals his dream, he flops down on the deck, lying on his back, eyes gazing up at the sky, almost like he's looking directly at his dream of traveling to space.
Oh, guter Punkt.
And
Boah.
right as he says, I wanna, the Thousand Sunny is shown from a rare angle tilted upward, almost
Boah.
like it's pointing towards the stars
Okay.
as well. In the
Das wär ein
manga, we
Oda-Move.
see that the Sunny itself reacts to Luffy's dream.
Ja.
Maybe it's shocked because it knows it will have to travel to space or be left behind. Zora and Jinbei are shocked because it's so ridiculous. Nami looks scared because everything Luffy says always comes true and she knows that she'll have to be the one to navigate him through the stars.
Boah, guter
Brook
Punkt.
laughs. Usopp is caught between awe and disbelief. Frankie, the shipwright, loves it because for a man who lives to build ships, the idea of something that could sail through space, Wouldn't that be perfect? Sanji jokes that Luffy needs his head checked, Robin is stunned, and Chopper is amazed. Usopp continues to say, come on, you know that's not possible. Luffy just shrugs it off and replies, maybe it is once I'm the king of the pirates. Robin then asks how Ace, Sabo, and Shanks reacted. Luffy says they all laughed and that Shanks even had a tear in his eye, which we'll get to later. Jinbei goes, well...
Was mich halt frage, ist bei dem Ding, Ruffys Traum muss ja irgendwie in der Story passieren. Und es muss in der Story erfüllt werden. Und dann frage ich mich, werden sie in der Story wirklich zum Mond fliegen? Außer Laugh-Tale ist auf dem Mond so. Das kann natürlich sein, ne? Dass Ruffy mit dem Erreichen auf Laugh-Tale auch seinen Traum erfüllt, weil dort sich irgendwie. Oder dass halt mit dem One Piece, wenn es ein UFO ist, nee, der müsste dann mit dem One Piece zum Mond fliegen. Ja.
Well, now that I'm here on this ship, I guess I've got to take it seriously. This is quite a captain I've saddled myself with. Chopper, his eyes turn into stars. You know that look he gets when he sees something futuristic or robot related. And Nami says, it does sound like you. Which, if you think about it, is true.
Das mit Chopper ist ein guter Punkt. Weil die freuen sich doch immer so extrem, wenn Frankie sich verwandelt. Er, Lysop und Chopper immer so, oh, Frankie, Roboter, cool. Ey, das ist ein richtig geiler Punkt.
Remember when Luffy told Rayleigh what being the king of the pirates meant to him? It wasn't to rule the seas. To him, it meant being the freest person in the world.
Oh, Gänsehaut,
so
Moment.
what would be the perfect treasure for Luffy? The perfect symbol of freedom? How about a ship that can go anywhere? A flying saucer with an endless adventure? Isn't that the ultimate freedom? And when you think about it, we've already flown to the clouds and plunged to the bottom of the sea. So wouldn't the next final frontier be space? And just imagine it, as Oda gives us that epic double page spread of them all flying into space. This dream would also explain why Oda hasn't shared it yet, as if Luffy says he wants to travel to space, this could relay to the audience that the One Piece must be some type of spacecraft to help him conquer this dream. This would also beautifully tie into another one of the Straw Hat's dreams that I've always thought would be difficult to accomplish, Nami's dream to draw a map of the entire world. For her to truly map everything, they'd have to sail across all 4 blues and chart every island on the Grand Line multiple times. It's a dream that always felt logistically difficult to complete in terms of the story's narrative.
Ja,
but what better way for her to fulfill her dream than from above? Aboard the One Piece, Nami could zoom out and orbit the world, logging every ocean and every island. It would finally allow her to complete the map she's always dreamed of. And I don't think space travel is too far-fetched either, when you look at how prevalent space has become in the story.
Boah, ich habe ein gutes Gegenargument für diese Theorie. So, ich höre nochmal.
We've already seen the moon surrounding the world in the Library of Ohara. The ship is literally called the Thousand Sunny, which could be a subtle nod that it's going to sail across 1,000 stars. The 5 elders are named after planets. Garp has galaxy impact. Luffy has Gomu Gomu no UFO. Fujitora casually calls down asteroids. The moon is a recurring symbol. The celestial dragons walk around in spacesuits. The ancient weapons are named after gods tied to cosmic mythology. And of course, Enel's cover story, the most legendary of them all. The guy literally goes to space, discovers a city on the moon, and finds life up there. Which brings us to Enel's cover story, where we get confirmation of space pirates, complete with their own Jolly Rogers. Why do space pirates have Jolly Rogers in the first place? Where did their advanced technology come from? There's even a pirate-like spaceship and a secret long-lost city. It begs the question, could there be other moons or planets with civilizations out there, waiting to be discovered? And then there's those
100%.
infamous images with Enel staring at two...
Alleine das Panel von Ohara, kennt ihr das? Von Kleeblatt? Da zeigt, ich glaube, da waren 5 Monde oder so abgemeldet. Es gibt 100% noch mehr Leben im Weltall. Also nicht nur das, was Enel gefunden hat. Und vielleicht ist sogar dieser ursprüngliche Konflikt mit Nika etc. im Weltall entstanden. Würde mich nicht wundern, ne? Also Weltall ist ein riesiges Thema in One Piece. Es ist jetzt nicht, dass er das irgendwie random pullt. Gerade mit Enels Cover-Story ist da schon sehr viel in die Richtung passiert, ne?
Two ancient murals. These were at the center of old fan theories back in the day, but I want to focus on just one detail, the ship. When you flip it upside down, the ship looks like a straw hat, or more precisely, a flying saucer. And the reason I personally subscribe to the theory that the One Piece is a UFO shaped like Luffy's straw hat is because it would completely recontextualize the entire story. The eye in the One Piece logo, silhouette, topped with his iconic hat, suddenly looks like a typical UFO. Maybe we've been looking at the One Piece this whole time. The first treasure introduced to us was Luffy's straw hat, and the last treasure might be the thing that inspired it, giving us a perfect circular ending. Every time Luffy gets serious and puts on his straw hat, it wouldn't just be a cool looking moment. It becomes the symbol of freedom, of adventure, of him fighting for his dream. And thinking back to Whitebeard's last speech when he said, "Someone will appear, carrying the history of all those decades on his back, and challenge this whole world to a fight." And what's on Luffy's back?
Ey, kurz off-topic, aber diese Rede von Whitebeard jedes Mal ist Gänsehaut, die ist so perfekt. Das Video dauert auch nicht mehr so lange, deswegen ich bleibe jetzt erstmal in dem Browser, auch wenn es da Werbung gibt.
Every step of the way, his straw hat, with that red ring embodying the Rio poneglyph containing the true history of the Void Century. His hat would then not just become a symbol of freedom, but also a symbol of truth. Now let's turn our attention to the location of Laugh Tale. Like so many others that have speculated before me, it could be in a number of places. Long Ring Longland, it could be hidden away in the massive hole beneath Ennis Lobby, somewhere around Reverse Mountain, which literally has an X marked on it. Maybe the water current that pulls ships up leads to a secret entrance, or maybe even a secret exit. Could it be hidden somewhere around Jaya, or deep within the Florian Triangle, guarded by those mysterious shadowy figures? If I had to guess, I'd say Laugh Tale is an island located beyond Lodestar. Roger clearly stated that all...
Also ich glaube, dass Laugh Tale am Reverse Mountain liegt. Ich habe da auch schon Theorien zu hochgeladen. Aber ich würde es so cool finden, wenn Laugh Tale auf Long Ring Longland ist. Das wäre so Hype, weil das wird so eine Metaebene reinbringen. Der Arc, wo gefühlt jeder sagen kann, also nicht jeder, aber die Leute, die One Piece nicht so intensiv verfolgen, ey, den Arc kannst du skippen. Genau dort versteckt er den Schatz. Das wäre so krass, ne? Aber es wird nicht passieren, glaube ich.
The log poses stop working once they reach there, which tells us that no pirate can naturally sail past this point. That also means that no one has ever made a full completed circle of the Grand Line. No one except Roger. And that's exactly what made him the Pirate King. So here's how I think it works. The road poneglyphs don't just lead you to Laugh Tale. They mark an X on a spot beyond Lodestar that you can't reach with normal navigation. This location also helps the story progress naturally. Instead of having the Straw Hats turn around or backtrack, they'll keep pushing forward. They'll find the last road poneglyph, reach Lodestar, and then chart a course past it, finally finding Laugh Tale. And maybe after all that, they'll be able to finally sail over Reverse Mountain, completing the Grand Line and bringing everything full circle.
Okay, das wollte ich hören.
All of this video, it's all just guesswork.
Das wollte ich hören.
I have no idea.
Weil ich finde, die Rückkehr zu Laboon, die sollte irgendwie in die Story integriert werden. Checkt ihr, was ich meine? Wenn das One Piece am Reverse Mountain ist, dann müssen sie zu Laboon zurückkehren. Und nicht, oh, die Story ist vorbei, komm, wir gehen Laboon besuchen. So, checkt ihr, was ich meine? Ich finde, das sollte irgendwie natürlich passieren, dieses Wiedersehen mit Laboon. Das werde ich cool finden. Aber hat er ja auch so angeschnitten, ne? Deswegen.
Where Laugh Tale actually is, but if the One Piece is a UFO, this could explain why a log post can't track it. Maybe that's the whole point. Laugh Tale might look like a normal island, something like Thriller Bark, but it's not. If it's hidden intentionally, disguised as land, that would explain why you need the road poneglyphs to find it. From the ocean, it could appear like just another island, the ancient kingdom perhaps, maybe even housed in some type of broken or futuristic dome. Maybe parts of it, or even the whole thing, is submerged underwater, camouflaged with rock or coral, and at first glance just looks like another piece of land. But once activated, the truth is revealed. The shells peel back, ancient lights begin to flicker, and this enormous craft, dormant for centuries, begins to rise. Or maybe it's smaller, hidden away deep inside a cavern, crashed into the side of a mountain, or entangled in the roots of a sky-piercing tree. I don't know. But what I do believe is that when the time comes, the final revelation will be clear. Laugh Tale will house a UFO. Which leads us to what I think this incredible vessel might be capable of. Remember, this entire video is just conjecture, so welcome to the part of the video I call the maybe I...
Ich mag es, dass er so nicht alles für bare Münze nimmt, sondern er sagt: „Ey, ich bin einfach nur ein Typ, der ein bisschen Spaß hat am Theorien erstellen“, wisst ihr? Der sagt nicht: „Ey, das muss so kommen, das muss so kommen“, sondern der macht einfach so. Der sagt, was er denkt, das finde ich sehr respektabel.
Ideas show, where I throw a poo to the fan and see what sticks. So, here we go. If the One Piece is a space vessel, it would have to be self-sustaining and have technology from out of this world. And if we assume that Joy Boy had awakened the Nika fruit, then it's not a stretch to presume that this UFO might have some of the most insane, wacky, incredible, and damn right outrageous designs and powers to it. Maybe the spacecraft is made out of solid gold, or maybe it's made out of sea stone. Maybe it has a tractor beam that can create things like wacky islands. It could have some gravity or magnetic powers that could move these islands, or maybe it has the ultimate power to destroy something like the Red Line. Or maybe it can do all of these things depending on the user's will. Maybe it can suck the ocean dry and spray it skyward, revealing the ancient civilization hidden beneath the sea. Or maybe it has the biggest sound system in the world, allowing Brook to blast Bink Sake so loud the entire planet can dance to it. If the One Piece is a UFO, it would also grant Luffy and the Straw Hats the freedom to travel swiftly across the world during the final arc. And maybe that red band around the ship isn't a poneglyph at all, but something even wilder. A moving story, a kind of video cartoon, or like a holographic record created by Joy Boy himself.
Das wäre auch krass.
Perhaps this is what Roger and his crew saw when they reached.
Boah, guter Punkt, ne? Ich rede darüber, dass das One Piece ein Bilderbuch sein könnte. Aber Bro, die waren technisch so fortgeschritten, dass selbst Egghead als Stadt der Vergangenheit bezeichnet wird. Also, das heißt, Joy Boy hatte ja Zugang zu heftigen Technologien. Dann braucht er ja kein scheiß Bilderbuch. Er kann einfach so ein Hologramm erstellen oder so ein Cartoon oder so, checkt ihr? Boah, ein Cartoon wäre krass. Das wäre aber sehr möglich. Guter Gedanke, den hatte ich nicht, ne?
Laugh Tale, a full retelling of the true history projected before them like an ancient anime. Maybe it was so funny, heartfelt, and unbelievable that Roger couldn't help but laugh, and thus named it Laugh Tale. What I'm really trying to say with all of this is if the One Piece is a UFO, there's no way Oda would make it some cliche flying saucer.
Yeah,
and
same.
as we just mentioned the Pirate King himself, let's turn our attention to Gold D. Roger. Because everything we've spoken about up until this point has been laying the groundwork for the story of One Piece. So now let's take this theory up a notch to Gear 5 and explain how it all ties together, starting with Roger's journey.
Okay.
The earliest we see Roger as a young man, he's swinging the straw hat around when he meets Rayleigh, kind of like how a UFO would spin, and says he wants to turn the world upside down. The two of them went on to form the Roger Pirates and shared some incredible adventures together, even taking on the formidable Rocks Pirates. Eventually, they reached the final destination indicated by the log post, Lodestar Island, another space-related name. But as the Roger Pirates disembarked, excited to have found what they thought was the last island, they realized it wasn't the true end of the Grand Line. And so, their search for the road.
Glaubt ihr, wir werden Lodestar in der Story noch sehen? Eigentlich schon, oder? Eigentlich müsste es noch kommen. So eine Insel, die gefühlt jeder vergessen hat irgendwie. Weil sie nur einmal kurz erwähnt wurde von Roger damals im Oden-Flashback.
Poneglyphs began.
Ja, jetzt auch die letzten 5 Minuten. Anscheinend soll er in den letzten 5 Minuten geisteskrank gekocht haben, ne? Also deswegen, ich bin gespannt, was er jetzt raushaut. Weil ich habe ein dickes Gegenargument gegen seine ganze Theorie. Also ich muss auch dagegen sein ein bisschen, weil ich habe was anderes gesagt. Deswegen, wenn ich ihm recht gebe, dann gebe ich mir Unrecht.
Unable to read them, they set out to find someone who could. And after finally finding Odin, Roger revealed his dream, which I believe was also to travel to space. It would explain why Whitebeard burst out laughing and said, "Are you a kid or something?" And for someone like Odin, who came from a closed-off country and whose big dream was just to explore the world, hearing someone say his dream is to explore the galaxy would of course leave him speechless. There's even a subtle touch in the anime that might hint at this. When Roger shares his dream, a little bottle of rum turns slightly, revealing a star on it. Maybe a tiny visual nod to his starry-eyed dream. After this, Roger and his crew finally reached Laugh Tale and discovered the One Piece, a flying magical saucer. There they either read or watched Joy Boy's tale, where he revealed the ancient prophecy depicted on Elbaf's mural. And it was at this moment the true secret of the One Piece was revealed. It can only be activated or powered by the drums of liberation.
Guck mal, das ist ein guter Punkt. Also er glaubt auch, dass das One Piece sie nicht zum Lachen gebracht hat, sondern das, was darauf stand oder so, aber wenn das One Piece etwas Technologisches ist, dann macht es Sinn, dass es nur mit den Drums of Liberation erweckt werden kann, weil, ähm, Emmet zum Beispiel auf Egghead konnte ja auch nur mit den Drums of Liberation, erweckt werden. Also, er brauchte auch die Drums, so, das macht schon Sinn, ne?
Which of course
Und
now
dann würde es auch
beats
Sinn
inside
machen,
Luffy.
dass Shanks damals gesagt hat, als er Ruffys erweckte Form gesehen hat, ne, auf dem Bounty-Poster: „Jetzt ist an der Zeit, sich das One Piece zu holen.“ Das heißt, Ruffys Frucht wird schon irgendwie, ähm, ihren Beitrag dazu leisten, das One Piece zu aktivieren oder es zu finden, weil es gibt einen Grund, warum Shanks gewartet hat. Er hat ja auch direkt nach der Reise von Roger zu Buggy gesagt, also Buggy kam ja zu Shanks und meinte: „Ey, los, wir schnappen uns das One Piece.“ Und Shanks meinte: „Ey, ist noch nicht der richtige Zeitpunkt dafür. Ich muss noch was erledigen.“ So, wahrscheinlich, weil die Nika-Frucht noch nicht da war und noch nicht erweckt worden ist, ne? Um ein Stroh zu finden, ja.
And like all
True.
great pirate legends, the X marks the spot, meaning that the true treasure needed to unlock the One Piece is Luffy's heart. The treasure, shaped like Roger's own straw hat, alongside Joy Boy's wacky history lesson, revealed the harsh truth to him that he wouldn't be able to complete his dream of flying into space. This combination is what made him laugh, a truly bittersweet moment for him and his crew. Hence, when Roger returned to see Shanks, Odin says they spoke and Shanks began to cry.
Ah,
I believe
fuck.
Shanks was already aware of Roger's dream to travel to space, but hearing that Roger wouldn't be able to fulfill it before his death broke his heart. Yet, Roger didn't leave him empty-handed. He gave Shanks a cryptic parting message. Find the Gum Gum fruit, awaken its true power, and then head to Laugh Tale yourself. This is why Shanks had such a sudden
Ich hab's
change of
gerade
heart when
angesprochen,
he
ne?
and Buggy
Aber jetzt
parted
sagt er's.
ways. He told Buggy he wouldn't be going after the One Piece just yet. Not because he didn't care, but because he had something important to do first. Find the fruit and unlock its hidden potential. Shanks then spent his life searching for the fruit, which, of course, he eventually found. Even the people on the ship questioned why he was attacking. After all, there was no treasure, just a fruit that turns you into rubber. But Shanks knew its true meaning, which brings us back to chapter 1. Shanks, having acquired the fruit, was either keeping it for himself or looking for the right person to eat it on his behalf. Then, by accident, Luffy ate it.
Excellent.
We know sometime after this, Luffy shared his dream with Shanks that he wants to travel to space. And this is why it made him cry. It was the same dumb, childish dream that Roger spoke of. It was in that moment Shanks realized Luffy was destined to become the next Pirate King. Knowing Luffy would have to awaken the fruit's true power to unlock the One Piece, Shanks challenged him, fully aware that to claim the title, Luffy would have to face the strongest pirates in the world and force his devil fruit to awaken. And that's exactly what he did, embarking on the most incredible adventure that led him to the strongest beast in the world, Kaido, where he finally awakened his devil fruit. This would also explain why in Wano, after Shanks sees Luffy's wanted poster showing his new awakened fruit, he calmly sits down, drinks his sake, and tells Beckman it's time to claim the One Piece, where Shanks will be waiting for Luffy at Laugh Tale, either to help him claim it, or maybe to steal it for himself. I'll let you be the judge of that.
Also,
And to
macht's
end this
echt gut mit der
section,
Musik,
it would
ne?
also perfectly explain Roger's opening words in the story. My treasure, why, it's right where I left it, which would be true. The One Piece is his treasure. He just wasn't the right person to use it. So instead, he started the pirate era, hoping to inspire the right person to find it. Now, Luffy is that person. And when he finds the One Piece, it will close the curtain on the pirate era and open the door to a new one, the era of space travel. As the One Piece will rise into the sky like a big beaming sun, as Luffy will be riding in the new dawn of the world. Where the series will go after this, I'm not sure, but as the great Carl Sagan once quoted, the surface of the earth is the shore of the cosmic ocean. Also, fun bonus point, in the first page of One Piece, Oda is wearing an alien mask. That is all.
War das die Theorie?
Thanks for watching. I want to say that I have loads of
Jo,
criticisms
Otegas
for this
geht.
theory, but honestly, my biggest criticism is that Oda is a genius, and I don't think my small little mind could even imagine what he has cooked up for the One Piece. He could reveal
Ja, die
something
Maske
next
war
week
Hype.
that completely destroys my theory, but isn't that the fun? And the reason we love this series,
Warte, was? Chapter 1182, One Piece ist not a UFO, auch geil.
One Piece. He could reveal something next week that completely destroys my theory, But isn't that the fun and the reason we love this series so much? The imagination from the community is what makes One Piece so special.
Boah, der redet gerade so
again,
Fakten.
thank you for watching.
Der redet
I
gerade
really hope
so
you enjoyed this
Fakten.
one, as I had an absolute blast putting it together. This is probably the only theory video I'll ever make, and it's something I've always just wanted to try. Going forward, I'll be making more One Piece content, plus...
Okay, also, guck mal, erstmal der Typ ist brutal sympathisch und er hat auch einen geilen Punkt gebracht, indem er gesagt hat, es geht nicht darum, dass alles wahr ist, sondern es geht um das Fantasieren und das gemeinsame Spaß haben, weil die One Piece Community ist oft so, der labert nur Quatsch und so bla bla bla. Lass die Leute ein bisschen Spaß haben am Theorien erstellen. Es geht nicht darum, dass alles wahr ist. Es geht einfach um dieses gemeinsame Fantasieren. Das fand ich sehr cool. Ich verstehe auch seinen Gedanken, ne? Also es macht irgendwo Sinn. Vor allem, dass dieses One Piece etwas Futuristisches ist, würde gut passen, einfach weil Joyboy aus einem antiken Königreich stammt, was technisch sehr fortgeschritten war. Das heißt, dass er irgendwie was Hochtechnologisches hat, würde passen. Und es würde auch passen, dass er die Nika-Frucht dafür braucht, mit den Drums of Liberation, weil damit ja auch zum Beispiel Emmet erweckt worden ist. Also, dass quasi Ruffys Frucht deshalb benötigt wird, würde auch passen zur Story mit Shanks, ne, warum Shanks gewartet hat, warum jetzt der Zeitpunkt dafür ist. Eine Sache allerdings stört mich an der Theorie. Oder das heißt, stört mich. Guck mal. Ruffy hatte den gleichen Traum wie Roger, ne? Da sind wir uns ja alle einig, ist ja bestätigt quasi, also gibt es keine Diskussion. Ruffy hatte den gleichen Traum wie Roger. Wenn Ruffy den gleichen Traum wie Roger hatte, also Ruffy hat den Willen von Roger geerbt, wäre es dann nicht naheliegend, dass auch Joyboy den Willen von Roger geerbt hat? Und das auch, ich meine, dass der Wille von Roger quasi, dass auch Joyboy den besessen hat, also dass Joyboy hat den Willen an Roger weitervererbt, Roger hat den Willen an Ruffy weitervererbt. Und dann müsste es ja auch Joyboys Traum gewesen sein, also in meinem Headcanon, Richtung Weltraum zu fahren. Checkt ihr, was ich meine? Und wenn Joyboy aus einem antiken Königreich stammt, was technisch extrem fortgeschritten war, was wahrscheinlich immer die Möglichkeit hatte, zum Mond zu fliegen, hat er dann den Traum eines Tages... benötigt er diesen Traum dann, eines Tages auf dem Mond zu landen. Checkt ihr, was ich meine? Das ist so ein bisschen, wo ich mir denke, da würde er dieses, ey, eine Party mit der ganzen Welt würde besser passen, auch weil Oda meinte, dass er One Piece mit einer großen Party beenden möchte. Ich habe auch in meinem letzten Video erklärt, warum ich denke, dass das One Piece eine große Party sein wird, auch einfach wegen der Relevanz von Musik für Ruffy in der Story. Da gehe ich jetzt nicht zu sehr im Detail drauf ein, aber trotzdem finde ich die Theorie richtig geil. Auch es würde auch passen. Guck mal, One Piece endet, wenn sie in den Weltraum fliegen, ne? Bedeutet, One Piece endet damit, dass die Strohhüte weitere Abenteuer erleben werden. Checkt ihr? Das wäre richtig passend, so fast so ein offenes Ende. Sie gehen wieder auf Abenteuerreise. Es gibt noch mehr zu entdecken. Es wär schon ein passendes Ende. Und auch mit diesem, ey, dieses Thema mit die Welt auf den Kopf zu stellen, dass das ein UFO ergibt. Ich mag den Gedankengang. Ich glaube nicht, dass die Theorie wahr ist. So, ich glaube, dass das, was ich letztens hochgeladen habe, realistischer ist, weil es ist auch meine Gedankengänge gewesen, so, deswegen finde ich natürlich meine ein bisschen realistischer, aber der Typ war todessympathisch. Die Theorie hat schwach angefangen, muss ich sagen. Sie wurde immer besser. Deswegen, ja, Mann, ey, auf jeden Fall checkt den ab. Ich werde das Video, also die Theorie von dem Typen nochmal unten in der Beschreibung verlinken. Danke fürs Zuschauen, Leute. Wir sehen uns beim nächsten Video. Bis dahin, haut rein, lasst ein Like und ein Abo auf dem Kanal da. Macht's gut, Freunde. Bis zum nächsten Mal. Ciao, ciao.